Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Yankee Cowboy Podcast. This episode is brought to you in part by Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump debate night in America. And really, I kind of wanted to sit here and talk about that debate and actually how I saw how that debate went. And really what we as the American people can look down the stretch for the next 60 something, I believe it's 65 days now until election day in this country, and a lot of states already have early in-person voting. And I think it was worthy of primetime television, as they say. But something unique caught my eye, or my ears, as they say, in listening to this debate. You would think that Donald Trump, historically, regardless of if you're a fan of his or not, he has some of the most, I would say, all over the place when it comes to debate performances between his RNC primary debates with the other candidates in 2015 against Joe Biden and for the 2020 debate. And even now with the Joe Biden versus Trump debate this year, this Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump debate did something unique that I think a lot of the punditry in this country really didn't talk about. And this is my hot take of the day. And I really can care less what a lot of other people think or say or do, but that's fine. What you're seeing uniquely done across this country, ladies and gentlemen, is that, and I'm glad I get to sit back and talk about this in the privacy of my own home and across the world, is that the independents in this country are growing in size, right? People don't always disclose their political views to the polling institute that's calling them that day on a landline phone or on a cell phone for that matter nowadays. Some are not really arbitrarily taking the polls. Some are volunteering to take exit polls. Some are taking, viewing polls or things like that. Okay. So what I saw and have seen since the debate is a couple things. First, the pundits were very quick to jump on board of it being a Kamala Harris victory. Very unique after the debate was over. And that didn't surprise me. It's the media. But if you look at that debate and how it was structured, there was actually live fact checking by the ABC pundits or personalities, as I call them, that did, and how I knew this debate was going to be trash. And I really was hoping it was actually going to be something worthwhile. But I knew as soon as this question got answered or got asked that this was going to be complete trash. And that was the abortion question that Donald Trump received from David Muir. And they followed up on that answer 3 times that Trump gave. Trump gave an answer that I'm glad he actually did, because it cleared up a lot of the unanswered questions that a lot of independents had about his abortion stances. For example, the lie about IVF treatments and the lie about this or the lie about that when it comes to the abortion ban. They categorize certain things as a Trump abortion ban or a Trump IVF ban. In reality, what Trump did was something that is monumental in this country, and that was he put a right, which, listen, however you believe or don't believe in the abortion issue, that's okay. Your beliefs are okay. Everyone's different, man and woman. But when it comes down to that question, he answered that question pretty thoroughly, I would say. But David Muir and I believe I forgot her name there, as the moderator, went back and asked him, I think, a total of 3 times for clarification. And he answered the question. It wasn't like they didn't pull a Kamala Harris and did a whole word salad and didn't answer a damn question with another question. He answered the question. So I knew it was going to go to junk in that debate when that happened. I also knew it was going to go to junk as soon as we found out what network we were on. I thought there was going to be a live audience there because I was like, why not? And there wasn't. I really didn't understand for being polling across the country. One of the most important issues. Now, it's not even what side of the aisle that you lie on between Republican or Democrat. It is polling what's important, what issues are important to the American people. And number one and number two is the economy and the border. And those total two topics got a less than 12 minutes of time. But you know what didn't get time? What got plenty of time was January 6th, the abortion issue. None of the important issues of the today got asked. And it's very shocking to me that being a debate that they didn't ask Kamala Harris to clarify some of her taxation policies or economic policies for more answers on where she exactly taking the economy. Economists want to know this. She has a policy, guys, that legitimately is on the table of taxing unrealized capital gains. If she does that, that ruins the entire stock market, that ruins the entire real estate market. Do we understand where we're heading here? It's not a scare tactic or scaremongering that's going on. It's legitimate, serious issues. Now, what I really didn't like about Donald Trump's performance, which was very, I say, lackluster in some ways, but he did his part, was he took the bait by Kamala Harris. And he really could have been more on the offense on certain issues, and he didn't go out of the way to kind of zing her and put her on her back heels a little bit, and he kind of kid gloved her a little bit. Maybe he underestimated her on the preparation and things like that. Kamala Harris didn't really answer any of the questions that were asked of her. She spoke in circles. She didn't speak in clarification of any of her policies. She didn't give us any guidance on the American people. And what I really genuinely mean by all of this, guys, is it could not be clearer more today than it was 2 weeks ago who you can vote for the presidency of the United States. And I hope genuinely, I really do, that every single person in this country gives someone an opportunity to finish out another 4-year term. And that is by the name of Donald Trump. Let him finish what he started. He was the 45th and hoped to soon to be the 47th president. Because I think legitimately this country needs him now more than ever. And it's not about if you can remove yourself and think with your brain and not with your emotional heart strings and think for the future of our grandkids and our kids and the economics and the hardships that we all felt for the last 4 years in this country. And I mean this sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Can you please for once think with your brain and not your heart and go pull that lever for Donald Trump? I'm asking every single one of you today that's listening to this podcast and across the United States of America to think with your brain and pull that lever and then jump on board with the Trump train, because you'll be surprised who's on board with that Trump train too. Your friends, your family that you haven't spoken to in about 10 years because they're Trump supporters. You want to talk about unity as a message. You know what's really concerning is that families have been at edges of the political spectrum for 40, 50 years. And all of a sudden, one candidate, their policies. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump hasn't changed in 30 years on policy. There is videos going back to that. And I want everyone to look it up yourselves. Look it up. Every single policy initiative, every trade conversations ever had, foreign policy, domestic policy, those have been around since the 80s, the early 90s. Trade conversations, domestic policy, the forgotten man and woman conversations. All those things have been talked about with Donald Trump with interviews with Larry King, Oprah Winfrey, Sally Jess Raphael. There is many interviews. And I think legitimately what was the most clarifying message to me as a Trump supporter in this debate, that it was a 3-on-1 debate, be starter. Okay. And there's no excuse for this. I think Trump should have came out here more powerful than he did. But one of the few things that legitimized my belief systems in him, that actually has an opportunity to do something that we have not seen before in a very long time, known as the Reagan sweep, I think is the fact that he is more open and honest and plain spoken about his words, with his words, about every issue you can possibly imagine. He's not going to hide. He's not going to say something just to get elected. He's going to tell you how he feels. It's a legitimate, it's a good thing to have. It's a good trait to have as a person. Another thing that I really think that really was eye-opening for me as a Trump supporter as well was they were showing these exit polls from this debate. And that was really keen and really distinct for me, was that the independents were tracking more along lines of the Republican Party, or the conservatives, as they say. And you watch the words and they're live watching it, and they're seeing usually certain lingo words. You'll see certain dips and certain play with the ticker and things like that you see. But what you saw was throughout the debate that the independents were tracking very close. I mean, within 1 or 2 points of the conservative line of thought towards Donald Trump. And when things were favorable towards Trump, independents went with him. When things weren't, they went with the Dems and certain things. So that's really key, as well as some of the exit polling by Reuters and some of the other things that were discussed. And I think, however you want to talk about this, is that it's I think what is historically been different between this election and last is that if you look at the polling data from the 2020 election and now, you see something very different. The polling landscape is different. Obviously, is that the fatigue of the polling data? Maybe. I don't disagree with that. But here's one nuance I think we haven't heard about yet, is that right now, and this is why I think that Donald Trump's more ahead in this race than what is being led on by the media. And that is not for hopes and prayers because he's my guy. It's what I'm seeing from the data. Okay. In 2020, Biden was up by 10 points, arguably by average in some of these swing states. And those polls sat at 10 points or higher going down the stretch. Sat at 10 points. Sat in Georgia up 10 points. If you look right now, okay, and I'm doing this in live time of my recording. If you go to interactive polls on Twitter, okay, that's a source that I use for a lot of my polling data and a lot of my things that I look for on skew, which I think is very important, that a lot of people need to understand how polls are skewed one way or the other. Right now, you see a post-debate Arizona poll by Trafalgar is 47 to 45 by Trump. Post-debate Nevada is Harris is up 45 to 43, still within the margin of error. So here's what I'm looking at. National polling right now, post the debate. ABC is Harris 52-46. Yahoo is 50-46. Atlas Intel is 51-48. Trump Rasmussen 51-47. No, that's RMG. Sorry, that's not Rasmussen. Um, a lot of these are liberal polls. So here's my thing. YouGov 49-45, Ledger 50-47, Morning Consult 50-45, Reuters 57-42, Redfield 44-42. The average literally is 48-45 with Harris. That is 3.5 points. The Rasmussen poll shows Trump up by 2. So a lot of these polls that you're seeing is that Kamala Harris is drastically underperforming both Hillary and Joe Biden in the month of September down the stretch. And so when you look at some of these polling datas, the forecast, you're seeing some of these post debate Nevadas. Um, you know, I'm, it's really okay. If you look, for example, the post debate poll by it shows Harris up 8 points. The margin of the likely voters, the swing it's over a 2-1 stretch of Democrats to Republicans. Like it's you have to look at the internal polling data to see what you're seeing, but it's really shocking to me that you're seeing some of these polls that are so tight and they're liberal polling institutes, and she's barely winning by the margin of error. So Morning Consult has Harris winning against Trump 50-45%. Reuters has 47-42. However, the margin of error basically knocks that out as a toss up. If you take away, for example, if you look right now, the Michigan general election polls by Mitchell Research shows Harris and Trump neck and neck, 48-48. With all the candidates on the ballot, it shows Trump ahead 47-46. Here's the thing, 600 likely voters, literally a 2.4 to 3.0 spread. It is literally a total toss up in Michigan. That is going to be where this election is decided on, is going to be decided in the state of Michigan or Pennsylvania. That is a bona fide fact, Jack. And if anyone doesn't believe that, we are in a close, tight election. You better bring your friends. You better bring your polling friends. You better bring everything. Right now, seriously, Marquette University law poll has Harris up 52-48 against Trump. Tammy Baldwin's up 52-47. Here's the thing. Even it's likely voters. Some of this stuff is very, very point. Margin of error is 5 points. So, it can go either way. So what I want everyone to understand is that we're in a very tight election and every opportunity counts. But one thing doesn't count. I want everyone to understand something. Whoever wins this election is going to seriously going to affect the future of our kids, our grandkids, and for many centuries to come. So it's important that you go out and vote. You do your right thing. I will leave you with this. The national average polls has this literally within a 3-point race. In 2020, Joe Biden was up by 10. And guess what? If you remember correctly, Donald Trump outperformed some of these polls by 5 or 6 points. So We're gonna have a good time, guys. And guess what? If your state offers early voting, do yourself a favor, and I mean this sincerely to all the Republicans too out there. Take the time and go do yourself an in-person early ballot. Because listen, we all have lives, we all have things that we have to do, work, life, kids, whatever, and it takes less than 5 minutes. Find yourself an early voting ballot if your state does that. It takes 5 minutes. You can do it on your lunch break, or heck, you can do it any day when they open up the early voting, and just give yourself an opportunity. It takes less than 5 minutes, and do your civil duty, do your civic duty. That being said, if you my biggest takeaway, I want you all to remember something is that Trump could have done a little bit better, and the polling shows that across many different polls that had I think 2,000 people polled, and to show that Kamala Harris might have won that debate, but the expectations were pretty much set the day before, of being very low. But we still didn't have any answers, and I think universally, as a collective body of people, of voters, we are owed that if you expect us to vote for you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the great episode topic. I wish every single one of you around the world and around the globe and around the United States of America continue following us as we lead ourselves into Election Day. And I want all of you to keep in mind two things. One, you vote early, you vote often. If you know any dead relatives, put their names on the ballot too. Just kidding. And if you vote in a red state, you vote twice. No, I'm just kidding. As Joe Biden would say, democracy's on the ballot. Oh boy. Don't worry about him anymore. He's at the beach. I don't even know who's running this country anymore. But with that being said, hopefully in 65 days, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have ourselves a great outcome, a great election, peaceful transition of power in the greatest 4 years this country has ever seen. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you.